Um, so as far as like all of that goes, Bungie and their future, basically it's probably going to be a lot of the same stuff that it was going to be anyways, just with a smaller studio, right? They're going to put Marathon out and they're going to bank on Marathon being like the next Fortnite. And
Is
they
it?
really want it to be. Well, it's so Marathon is, because if you look at their plan for Destiny right now, their plan for Destiny is trying to keep Destiny 2 going for indefinite. And they're not going to do big expansions anymore. Like Forsaken, Witch Queen, stuff like that. They're going to try to default to something smaller, like the older, like Curse of Osiris DLCs, a couple times a year.
So
And
closer to what like old school RuneScape does, where it's just continued life support, like build
yeah,
a community and just hold on to it.
yeah, it's basically life support.
Okay, I mean, I named old school RuneScape because that's a place that has had times where it's been working and times where it hasn't. So like
Right.
it's not immediately bad to hear that. It's just, not everybody can make that model work. Minecraft makes that model work. They don't do any major overhauls. It's just continued minor support.
Right. I don't know how many times you can grind out basically the exact same set of weapons with a, slight shader change. Talk about Destiny. Because a lot of people are there for and as silly as it sounds, I know, especially coming from
Halo 5 did it for a long time.
Halo 5 had a huge drop off though.
Yeah, but if you cut the team, how much do you need?
Right.
Like Final Fantasy 11 doesn't have a huge team behind it.
But so Halo also, with the Forge and things like that, it taps into a passionate fan base of people who want to go and create. That's one thing I was always disappointed that Bungie never introduced with Destiny, the ability to really lean into the. Well, most likely, yeah, because of how the engine was. But it was still, I was like, man, imagine Destiny with that ability where people were recreating maps that, especially for the PvP players out there, that they would get that benefit from. In fact, that was generally my biggest ongoing frustration, is it always kind of felt like they just kind of put PvP to the side. And I think with Marathon and with just the news that came out last year, that was true. They really just set PvP down. Occasionally you'd get a map. Eventually they brought in this old mode. They had all the, and it was just frustrating because they ended up removing more content from Destiny, especially when it related to PvP, than they ever really, I thought, brought back in. Yeah. And we still haven't seen that value.
It's why a life support model is not being good, because there's still a lot of things that could come back that would feel good. There's a lot of content they could bring back into the game.
And we may be looking down more content vaulting, because if they don't move to a Destiny 3 or what would have essentially been Destiny 3. So from what I understand, there was a handful of projects like spinning the Crucible off into its own game, spinning Destiny off into the single player part of Destiny off into this universe exploring type thing where it's third person. From everything I heard, it sounded more like a traditional MMO, but without PvP. And I'm they're not that was Project Gummy Bear.
Okay.
And it's we're going to do this Project Gummy Bear. It's going to be third person. It's going to do all these different things. And it's going to be this explore the universe, explore these different planets, blah, 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 blah. Sounds more like a traditional MMO if you ask me, but it wasn't going to be Destiny 3. I know what you're thinking. Why would people still play Destiny 2 if have this PvE game that is basically Destiny 3, but not Destiny 3? I don't know.
Halfway between No Man's Sky and Helldivers.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That'd be a standalone, right? That would just, anybody that doesn't like PvP but plays Destiny and doesn't follow the story outside of watching a Vive video would just shift to that.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? That would be and why would you support basically two PvE games that are doing the same thing?
Well, you take also Bungie's, one of the things that always rings true is that whenever you step back into Destiny and play it, the gunplay and the gameplay feels so good. And if they were able to take that and toss that into a Helldivers 2, toss that into some kind of other thing without the baggage, yeah, why, you bring up the great point. Why not move to it? Because I have yet to play the Final Shape, and I was well, a lot of things are coming out around the same time. I don't have the bandwidth to try and add the latest Destiny expansion to my lineup. And then I was like, one of the things that you also see is that after that kind of hype wave wears off, that's where the game is now. And it doesn't seem like a lot of the player base is as positive about the final shape. And I think for me, though, Lightfall was like a real gut punch. I just did not enjoy it.
How do you build replayability for your core? Like, let's assume they're okay with just dropping down to a core that's just organically maintained, and we're not going to inject in like. So I was playing Age of Empires this week and played Empire Wars. I've never played Empire Wars.
Yeah.
And so like that was like a whole new breath of life into. It's effectively the same mode we'd been playing. You're just skipping the first 4 to 8 minutes of gameplay.
Right.
Something like that, and yet it totally changed the texture for our group. I was playing with a group of those 8 of us, and so it was 4v4, and it totally changed the texture of the game. So like, how does Destiny, if you're not going to come out with expansions, how do you then say, okay, then this season we're going to make a twist on Crucible or something like that? Do they even have the ability to do that within their? Because it always sounds like their engine was like, it's so bespoke that it just doesn't do anything. You're like, well, we're so limited, and like maybe they're not.
Well, so their engine is, yeah, when you say bespoke, you're not far off. It's one of those things. It has code in it from Halo 1 because they figured out how to make guns shoot back during Halo 1, and they haven't been able to replicate it. So if they went over to like Unreal or
and it feels
another
good.
engine,
it's
they could
the
do
best gunplay. So I wouldn't try to rebuild it. Like